What's up again, everybody? Week 2 of the National Championship season is in the books for Flesh and Blood, and if you missed any of the results, we're going to break it down together in this video, give you a full recap of the events that happened and how they all turned out. We can sum this week up in one sentiment, and that sentiment is this: Oldham is on an absolute tear. So let's take a look at the results that happened this past weekend. Okay, so first things first, I love that Legend Story Studios got this article out so quickly. It makes it a lot easier to digest right after the fact, and digest we will. There were a few large events, several large events that took place, a couple of smaller events as well, but all of these events are important, and all of them were played with the goal of becoming national champion, and that is a very important thing. So looking at Bulgaria, this was a 33-person classic constructed event, and it was picked up by Bravo Showstopper, which is very cool. And I do want to point out, literally no Oldhams in the top 8, but if we do look at the top 8, we see some familiar faces, some familiar names. In fact, there's actually 2 different Bravo Showstoppers. We have Phi as well, which did pick up a win this week at a large-scale event we'll talk about here in a moment. Viserai does make the cut. Another Phi here. Icelander and Icelander also making the cut. Icelander had a good splash this weekend of results, and one that I feel is going to be very beneficial over the next few weeks for Icelander players to really latch on and watch this high-level gameplay, watch these great results being turned, and then making some tweaks to the deck. There's a lot of good tweaks being made to the Icelander deck that I feel could provide, well, let's just say this: it could provide better results across the board into a variety of different matchups, and one that has me very excited to relook at the deck list and build it in a variety of new ways. Dorinthia also making the cut here in the top 8 as well, and that has happened in the past week as well. In week 1, we saw Dorinthia's making the cut in the smaller events, unfortunately not really able to cut through the large-scale events, but perhaps we'll see that this coming week at US Nats. In Canada, which was a large-scale event, Tariq Patel picks up the win and is currently both the US national champion and also the Canadian national champion, which is just a crazy thing to say, and it speaks to his acumen in the game. It speaks to his skill level in the game. He is not one to be trifled with, and he picked it up off of just a masterclass of Oldham gameplay. He played it very well. If you watched the stream, you were able to watch him play both in the semifinals and in the finals, of course, picking up the win against none other than RHINAR. And I do want to point this out. In this top 8, we did have 2 Oldhams, we had 2 Icelanders, we had 1 Phi, 1 Dash, and 2 RHINARs. At this tournament, there were 3 RHINAR players, and 2 of them on the exact same deck made it into the top 8. And this is one of the overarching points that I want to point out right here, right now, is that RHINAR is in the perfect meta for RHINAR to be good. This is like the perfect time for RHINAR to actually be good. And that is really exciting. And we've already seen RHINAR pick up the win in the Malaysian National Championship, and got very close here to picking up the win as well. It was incredibly exciting to watch that finals and possibly see a RHINAR pick up a Canadian Nationals win. But it was not meant to be, because Tariq Patel said, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to get another one of those trophies that has my name on it that says I'm a national champion. And he did in a 112-person mixed format classic constructed and draft event. I do want to point out that Yuki Lee Bender also played amazingly well and had some really cool deck changes in Icelander. Michael as well played very well. From what I could tell, I don't believe he was on stream. I think he was on stream for 1 game. Maybe he was on stream for 1 game in that final top 8. Nevertheless, picking up wins with Icelander and top 8s with Icelander as well. Very exciting to see. I am someone who loves me a good Icelander. Moving on to Croatia. Croatian Nationals even in these small scale events, which was only an 18-person classic constructed events, Oldham can still prove that he's just S tier. And I'm just going to say this right now. There's not a lot of tier list content right now, and I'm going to tell you why. Because saying one hero is better than the other in this meta is probably the most difficult thing to do. So expect my tier list on Wednesday, right before US Nationals. I'm going to post a tier list video on Wednesday. So if you want to see if I got it right or got it wrong, and if you want to make fun of my predictions, check out the video on Wednesday. But it's hard to argue with Oldham being the best deck in the format right now. Now, I do want to point this out. Just because he's the best deck in the format does not mean he's unbeatable, and does not mean that there are decks that have the ability to consistently give him a hard time. And that's really good, because that proves, at least in my mind, that this is perhaps the most balanced meta that we've ever seen. Nevertheless, 3 Briars made it into the top 8, I should say, here, which is kind of funny. Right after I said it's a really balanced meta, there's 3 Briars right there. Bravo, Phi, Viserai, and Phi. Phi is making an interesting resurgence in a meta dominated by Guardian. Phi is shifting tactics from this combo-oriented play, or at least shifting in the sideboard portion from this combo-oriented play for that matchup, and playing a much more interesting back-and-forth game plan, and one that is actually working for Phi in a way that I would not have expected prior to watching it play out. In Czechia, we had a 20-person classic constructed event that was picked up by Dash, believe it or not, was picked up by Dash alongside of several Bravo showstoppers in the meta. I just want to point this out too. Looking at this, there are 2 Briars, there's a Dromai and a Phi, but no Oldhams in this meta. It was a small 20-person event, but no one chose to play Oldham. Nevertheless, you did have a win on Dash, so a couple of points going to Dash as well. Finland had a 36-person event, and I never thought we would see it happen, but Icelander picked up the win. I was on the stack recently, and the question was asked by my good buddy Flake if Icelander would pick up a national championship win, and I answered no, namely because I thought the question was asking about US Nats only, and I'm a dumb. And so when the question was asked, I said no like a potato, and then I realized after a tweet that it meant any nationals. And so here, Finland has proven me wrong. Finland picked up the win. Congratulations on picking up the Icelander victory. That's pretty cool. But looking at the rest of the field, look how varied this is. Yes, there are 4 Briars, excuse me. But look at, like, here's another RHINAR popping up. There's an Oldham still. It's just crazy to me. Dorinthia was the matchup to win the national championship. It's just crazy to see this many heroes across like all of these different events. And of course, yes, some of these smaller events are going to allow some of those side heroes to really capitalize if you're very good. But still, this meta is very interesting, even though it's dominated, pun intended, by Oldham. Briar does pick up a win. And not only that, Briar picks up a win here after picking up a few wins last week, and inches ever so closer to the Living Legend status. But I don't think I'm just predicting this right now, I don't think she's going to make it. I don't think she's going to get there in national season. I don't think she's going to rotate out. And it's hard for me to predict that she will when the point system got changed. You know, if the point system doesn't get changed, then she goes off the back of this plus the previous wins probably. But now I just don't think she will. And I love that because I'd rather her stick around. But Dromai in the top match in the finals gets taken down by Briar. Oldham was present here in 2 different instances, and we did have a Lexi in this 43-person event making it to the top 8. Some interesting Lexi builds as well going around. The hard control Lexi that's using what is it? Ice Vein? No, not Ice Vein. Why am I blanking on the name of the Weather Vein? Eisenhower Weather Vein. Using Eisenhower Weather Vein to like just push a ton of frostbites all at once and to lock an opponent out, which is very interesting. Portugal had perhaps the most weird top 8. It was a 41-person event, 5 Oldhams. Welcome to the meta. 5 Oldoms, top 4, all Oldoms. Oldom mirror matches everywhere, all over the place. Viserai did cut in there. Another Guardian like makes it. Look at this. It's like all Guardians and 2 Viserais. How weird is that, man? But it was a 41-person event, and Oldom does gain some more points, getting inching closer to his own retirement. Romania, a 10-person event, very small, does end up just being, like the top 4 essentially played out because it is just a small event. But congratulations, Dorinthia picks up the win, which is really cool, gaining a couple of points there as well. Oldham was present, Viserai and Dash as well. Spain is a very interesting one. Right before we talk about our last event, Spain was very interesting because Pablo Pintor, the Pro Tour winner of Pro Tour number 1, I believe he also was the national champion previous to this. I think that's the case, but I'm not quite sure. Nevertheless, on Icelander is edged out by Viserai, and that is an interesting matchup because it can go either way, at least from what I've found in that matchup, depending on how you can disrupt and how big your opponent can go on certain turns. It's a very interesting matchup, but congratulations to Max for becoming the Spanish national champion at a 53-person event. And finally, we come to one of the most interesting results of the weekend, and that's the UK Nationals. Now, keep this in mind, UK Nationals was sort of mired by the passing of the Queen and the possibility of, the event, being difficult to attend and, like things being shut down because of the mourning going on over there. And so there was this possibility of canceling and then bringing it back. And so there was some uncertainty going into this event, and it led to an 89-person Uprising draft and Classic Constructed mixed format event. But the gameplay was top-notch. It was fantastic. I highly recommend you go watch it. Watch it unfold. It was very good. And even though we did have 3 Oldoms in the top 8, it was picked up by Phi, believe it or not. Phi picked up the win, and Dromai was in the mix as well. And in fact, there's a fantastic masterclass of a game wherein Dromai versus Oldham. I think it was in the quarterfinals. Dromai versus Oldham. If you want to know how to play the Dromai side of the matchup into like a control setup or just really a mid-range setup, watch that game because it was truly fantastic to watch it unfold. And it was very close even in the end as far as like fatigue was concerned, if Dromai could actually close it out. But because Dromai had the capability of the cheapest legendary in the game right now, probably the cheapest, in Ghostly Touch, Dromai picked up the win in that quarterfinals. Viserai also made the cut, and 2 other Phis as well. Phi had a surprising showing, and if I had any takeaways, my 3 takeaways are this. Oldham is S tier. That is clear. But there is room for Phi still in this meta, which is crazy cool. And there's a lot of untapped potential in RHINAR. That is mind-blowingly cool to me as well. So week 2 of national championships are in the books. It was incredibly exciting. I will try to put some links down in the description and the top comment if you want to watch any of the streams of any of these events. I was able to watch the Canada Nationals and the United Kingdom Nationals for the most part. I was able to watch as much as I could of those. Highly recommend you do the same thing as well and support those streams for what they were able to provide for the community. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, make that number that just reached 400. Look at that, 10,400. Go to a slightly higher number. And if you are a patron, I just want to stop and say you're like the best. Patrons, you're the best. If you want to become a patron, you'll also be the best. As always, thanks for watching.